cart, he acted erratically. He was yelling that he was hungry and allegedly made vague threats. So according to reports, Penny came up with second-degree manslaughter. Now with all this, you had Penny's lawyers arguing that he just acted lawfully in defense of these other passengers who didn't know whether Neely had any weapons or not. But also several subway riders testifying that they were terrified Neely was going to attack and felt relieved when Penny did something. But then, on the other side, you had the prosecutor saying, hey, I actually agreed that Penny intended to protect his fellow passengers, but she added the caveat, he just didn't recognize that Jordan Neely's life, too, needed to be preserved. And arguing the defendant used way too much force for way too long in way too reckless of a manner. But they're also arguing there that Penny kept Neely in the chokehold even after the man stopped moving and other passengers cautioned him to loosen his grip. And with that, you actually had the Marine Corps martial arts expert who trained Penny, testifying that Penny was aware the holds could be lethal. But then, the defense calling their own medical expert to the stand who claimed that the chokehold alone didn't kill Neely, arguing instead that it was a mix of factors that led to his death, including a sickle cell crisis, a schizophrenic episode, K2 intoxication, and in part,
that sounds like a lot of reasons.
Contradicting the medical examiner who didn't have the toxicology report at the time that they ruled the official cause of death to be compression of the neck. Though also a big thing there is they stated at trial, quote, no toxicological result imaginable was going to change my opinion, even if they showed enough fentanyl to put down an elephant. And so ultimately, after each side gave their closing arguments, the 12-person jury deliberated all throughout last week in Manhattan, with us then getting the news on Friday that they returned to the courtroom just to announce that they couldn't agree on a verdict. So from there, we saw the judge and the prosecutor agreeing to throw out the manslaughter charge, which would have carried a sentence of up to 15 years. And instead, they're allowing the jury to consider a lesser alternative charge of criminally negligent homicide. With that, carrying a maximum sentence of just 4 years, though the judge could give him no prison time at all. But now, the big update today is that the jury came back with another announcement, and this time, they had reached a unanimous verdict. Daniel Penny is not guilty of criminally negligent homicide. With one of the protesters outside celebrating the news and the other angry. With those different sentiments obviously expanding to the internet as well. With the likes of Ben Shapiro saying, this trial never should have taken place. America needs more men like Daniel Penny. America needs fewer prosecutors like Alvin Bragg. As well as Meghan McCain adding, I don't think the left fully grasps how much they are radicalizing people when a Marine who saved a bunch of people on the subway from a violent person with mental illness yelling, someone is going to die today, is demonized. As well as some on the other side like Mehdi Hassan saying, just imagine if Jordan Neely had been white and Daniel Penny was black. Imagine what some of the folks defending Penny today would be saying. And the NAACP writing, the acquittal of Daniel Penny and the death of Jordan Neely has effectively given license for vigilante justice to be waged on the black community without consequence. It's a painful reminder of the inequities in our justice system. Jordan deserved compassion. Instead, he was met with violence. Now, as far as what is next here, the situation is not over for Penny. Right? And that because Neely's father separately filed a lawsuit in New York Supreme Court last week accusing Penny of assault, battery, and causing Neely's death. And so while we're going to have to wait to see what happens there, the main takeaway, at least for today, is that Penny is not going to prison. Whether you're happy or not about that news, I'd love to know your thoughts about why down below. But then, quick breather from the news. I gotta say, it has been fun for me to learn how you guys are using your SeatGeek wedding. From concerts and Broadway shows to sporting events, our SeatGeek $500 giveaway lives on, and you beautiful bastards are crushing it. And for the uninitiated, SeatGeek is #1 rated live event ticketing app with over 28 million downloads and access to a wide array of entertainment to get you and a loved one out of the house. My team worked with SeatGeek to extend the $500 giveaway, and if you haven't entered yet, just do it. Like next week's winner could be you. Simply add code PDS to your SeatGeek account, get $10 off, and you could be one of our lucky weekly winners. That's $500 in credit towards any of SeatGeek's 70,000 events. And also, if you're new to SeatGeek, you can add. The case in question here actually involves a lawsuit that was first filed in October, that at the time naming Diddy and mentioning 2 other unnamed celebrities, but now it's been refiled to say that one of those celebrities was Jay-Z. And because I actually covered this when it was first filed, some of the allegations might sound a little familiar. But this new suit claiming that Diddy and Jay-Z drugged and raped a 13-year-old girl at a VMA's after party in 2000. And this, as it claims another celebrity stood by and watched as both took turns assaulting her. Now, as far as how these allegations unfolded, the lawsuit claimed that the girl was trying to get into the VMAs and Diddy's limo driver ended up inviting her to an after party. With a lawsuit claiming that once she was at that party, she was asked to sign a document which she now believes was an NDA, but saying that she was never given a copy. With her then going on to claim that she accepted a drink that made her feel woozy, so she went to a room to lie down, and that is when Diddy, Jay-Z, and an unnamed female celebrity walked in. Jay-Z specifically being accused of undressing and raping the teenage girl first, and Diddy going after, with the girl only escaping after hitting Diddy in the neck. With the lawsuit then adding that after this alleged assault, she fell into a deep depression which continued to affect every facet of her life. Adding that she also suffers from PTSD and a seizure disorder caused by the trauma, and the suit accuses Jay-Z of harassing the alleged victim, claiming there that before this updated complaint was filed, Jay-Z received a letter from her counsel requesting mediation, but, quote, Jay-Z responded to said letter by not only filing an utterly frivolous lawsuit, lawsuit, but by also orchestrating a conspiracy of harassment, bullying, and intimidation against plaintiffs' lawyers, their families, employees, and former associates in an attempt to silence plaintiff from naming Jay-Z. With that, saying that this effort didn't work and actually encouraged the victim to list him in the lawsuit. And with this, you have the lawsuit trying to paint Diddy and Jay-Z as being incredibly close. We're saying that their relationship, it went past just being collaborators, they were very close friends. Saying in fact so close that Jay-Z is allegedly the only person aside from Diddy's mom that's allowed to call him by his legal name of Sean. Now for his part, Diddy's legal team gave a statement to NBC News saying the lawsuit being filed against him were shameless publicity stunts full of lies. Though the response is getting the most right now is Jay-Z. And that is because he posted a statement to Rock Nation social media accounts railing against the victim's lawyer, Tony Busby, saying there, my lawyer received a blackmail attempt called a demand letter from a, quote, lawyer named Tony Busby. What he had calculated was the nature of these allegations and the public scrutiny would make me want to settle. No, sir, it had the opposite effect. It made me want to expose you for the fraud you are in a very public fashion. So no, I will not give you one red penny. These allegations are so heinous in nature that I implore you to file a criminal complaint, not a civil one. But then going on to try to discredit Busby's previous cases as well as his time in the Marines and then calling him an ambulance chaser in a cheap suit. Jay-Z going on to say, my only is for my family. My wife and I will have to sit our children down, one of whom is at the age where her friends will surely see the press and ask questions about the nature of these claims. And going on to say, you have made a terrible error in judgment thinking that all celebrities are the same. I'm not from your world. I'm a young man who made it out of the project of Brooklyn. We don't play these types of games. We protect children. You seem to exploit people for personal gain. With that, then leading to a whole back and forth with Busby issuing a statement saying that the only thing Jay-Z failed to mention in his response is that, quote, my firm sent his lawyer a demand letter on behalf of an alleged victim, and that victim never demanded a penny from him. Instead, she only sought a confidential mediation. And saying, as far as the allegations in the complaint filed, we will let the filing speak for itself and will litigate the facts in court.
Ooh.
And then, this morning, we got an update when Jay-Z filed a motion asking for the victim to either reveal herself or dismiss the case. And in general, we've seen a lot of different reactions in a lot of different places. Some were quick to defend Jay-Z, others slammed his response.
What?
Meanwhile,
No,
there's also
don't.
this whole other group just waiting for more shoes to drop. And
Do not defend the pedophiles. Oh my gosh. Jay-Z, Diddy, and the Queen Bee, which apparently Beyonce.
celebrities being named in the Diddy case. So as we're seeing all of this play out, in the meantime, I gotta ask you, what are your thoughts on this whole thing? And then, is TikTok fucked? Like, is it over? Because things are not looking good right now, right? Because as you might have seen, a federal court has now upheld the law signed by Biden back in April that forces TikTok's owner, ByteDance, to sell to a non-Chinese company or face being banned in the United
Oh
States.
my goodness.
The deadline for that, right? The line in the sand being January 19th, the day before Donald Trump is sworn into office. And all of this is we've seen lawmakers on both sides of the aisle and intelligence officials arguing that this move is necessary because of TikTok's ownership under a Chinese company is a threat to national security. And specifically, they're arguing the Chinese
man.
private company to hand over Americans' data or push profit.
Here's the thing. I understand the need to protect the nation, but also this is gonna fuck up a lot of independent small businesses who are relying on TikTok as a way to provide for their family. Like, what the heck? Like, how are you gonna replace all those TikTok shops, all those content creators who have made it their thing to be able to live off of the creator fund?
Again, this notably as they have not provided evidence of those claims, and TikTok is denying them fiercely. With them, among other things, filing a lawsuit arguing that the legislation violated the First Amendment and was unfairly targeting the company. But what we saw there was a three-judge panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit ruling unanimously against TikTok, effectively denying its effort to overturn the law. With the judges specifically arguing that the law was carefully crafted to deal with only control by a foreign adversary, and so it didn't violate the First Amendment. And then also adding, the government acted solely to protect that freedom from a foreign adversary nation and to limit that adversary's ability to gather data on people in the United States. And all of this, as the chief judge on the panel also acknowledged that many Americans could lose access to an outlet for expression, a source of communication,
Yeah.
even a means of income. But then also
Yeah.
adding there, Congress judged it necessary to assume that risk given the grave national security threats it received, and the courts are not in a position to set it aside. And so now,
Oh my goodness, they just said that we thought about that and we don't care. We'll see.
now with this, we've seen a lot of free speech advocates condemning the move, with TikTok itself also slamming the decision as outright censorship of the American people. With a key thing being that TikTok also indicated that it would take the matter to the Supreme Court, arguing that the High
Oh, excuse
Court
me.
has an established historical
I forgot that was
right to
live
protect
streaming.
Americans' right to free speech, and We expect they will do just that on this important constitutional issue. In fact, just this morning, we saw TikTok filing a motion asking the Federal Appeals Court to pause the law from taking effect to give the Supreme Court enough time to consider whether to take the case and allow Trump to weigh in. But the company arguing there that Trump could prevent the need for the Supreme Court to even rule on the matter at all by fulfilling his promise to save TikTok, which, of course, as we talked about, was a complete 180 from his first term, where he became one of the app's biggest opponents and actively tried to ban it. Though this also, as far as like what Trump could actually do here, that's not entirely clear, because in order for the law to be fully repealed, it would take an act of Congress. So among the possible actions, we could see Trump directing his new attorney general to not enforce the law. But that also could be tricky, because the way the ban is enforced is by penalizing app stores if they continue to offer TikTok. Right? And so it's widely believed that Apple and Google would probably be wary about disobeying an actual law just based on Trump's word. So additionally here, there's a provision in the law that allows the president to determine whether a sale or similar transaction successfully removes TikTok from foreign adversary control. We're seeing some experts here speculating that ByteDance could make serious structural changes to meet those requirements, and Trump could then approve and allow the app to continue operating. Or because Trump has the presidency and the Republicans will have both houses of Congress, there is a world potentially where Trump says, hey, I know a number of the Republicans voted this way before, but I'm the leader, do as I say, and then he instructs them to vote against it, like for a new law. But then there's a question of, would he actually have the numbers there? But then also at the same time, you have many experts questioning Trump's commitment to TikTok, especially given how hawkish he is on China. There was some also noting here that Congress passed this law after closed-door intelligence briefings about the threats posed by TikTok's Chinese ownership, and so Trump could change his mind once he takes office and gets briefed on the same information. And that is kind of it. Right?
Maybe.
Outside of that, TikTok doesn't really have many other avenues for survival in the States. Right? There's always technically the possibility that ByteDance will cave to the law and they'll sell now that their attempted law has been shut down by the appeals court. But I mean, one, they have repeatedly refused to do so, and two, the sale of TikTok's algorithm would probably get blocked under Chinese export controls issued in 2020. Right? So if they decided to sell TikTok, it would be a shell of the platform without the algorithm that makes the app what it is. Right? Because as far as the Supreme Court's role in all this, multiple experts have said that if the justices agree to take up the case, they would then just likely uphold the decision made by the appeals court and allow the law to live on. And then finally, with all this, right, as far as like how this would affect you, you would still likely be able to use TikTok if you downloaded the app before the ban, but you wouldn't be able to receive updates. So it's believed that it would just eventually turn into a buggy nightmare. But for now, we'll have to wait to see what happens with the Trump of it all. But that,
Well, that's true. You could still use it, but then people won't be able to. If there's no updates, it could mean a lot of unsafe, cybersecurity related issues. Could get stuff stolen.
and in a quick break from the news, are you looking for an outside-of-the-box gift idea for a loved one or even yourself? Because, you've heard me talk about how I think my metabolism is my body's engine, turning the food you eat into fuel. A healthy metabolism is flexible. Everything that just went down in Syria, because it is a lot, it is messy, and it is game-changing. Nearly 2 decades of civil war. The rule of the Assad family has ended after just a few weeks, with Bashar al-Assad and his family reportedly fleeing the country to Russia. With the footage from the capital of Damascus showing people dancing in the streets, although it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. Because the liberation of Damascus also came with sobering reminders of what the Assad regime was doing, like the tens of thousands of political prisoners that got free. With just story after heartbreaking story coming out. And also, there were allegations that everyone was given a number and they weren't allowed to use their names. And those stories are a rabbit hole worth going
Terrible.
down. For now, we need to talk about how this happened so quickly, who is behind it, and is this really the end of the war? Starting with that first point, right? It seems like what really screwed over the Assad regime was its major backers, Russia.
If you're wondering what I'm making, I like to make cards. So it's gonna look like this. Keeping it simple. And then on the inside, there's gonna be a photo, and it's gonna say Merry Christmas somewhere. I'm making like 50 of them. So many!
Iran and Hezbollah having lost a lot of their power in the region. You see, Russia used to have a lot of troops in Syria, but they needed them more and more for its war in Ukraine, and that left Iran and Hezbollah. And with that, Iran's presence has always been relatively small and more of the way for the country to ship weapons to the regime and Hezbollah, which then just kind of left Hezbollah to prop up Assad. But then all of that crashing down after it gambled that it could fight another war with Israel. And so because of all that, the ill-trained and low-morale troops that were under Assad's control, they put up almost literally no fight when the rebels started their offensive. Which then brings us to the question of, well, who are these rebels? Because despite being described as this cohesive group, they're more of a loose coalition with the group HTS at the helm, with HTS actually being a spin-off of a former Al al-Qaeda affiliate, so a few steps removed from its hardcore Islamist past. But with
Ooh.
that, understand that doesn't mean those tendencies still aren't there, with the United States still designating them as a terror group. Though you also have the group's leader, Abu Muhammad al-Jilani, pushing back against this in an interview with CNN, saying that the label was, quote, primarily political and at the same time inaccurate. With the men going on to argue that the whole reason HTS exists is because it was opposed to the most extreme Islamic groups and splintered away. But, that still hasn't stopped a lot of people from worrying that we're about to see another repressive caliphate in the Middle East. Though on that note, you had Jilani saying, people who fear Islamic governance either have seen incorrect implementations of it or do not understand it properly. With the men going on to add that Syria would then transition to a state of governance, institutions, and so on. Syria deserves a governing system that is institutional, not one where a single ruler makes arbitrary decisions. And this, as the group reportedly does have experience governing, right? It's been in charge of the large city of Idlib and the surrounding areas for a while now. But on one side, Robertson are indicating that in some ways he's progressing with things like prisons for prisoners. But then also at the same time, on the other side, you had Jilani showing that he was willing to bend after pushback from residents. And this is, either way, reportedly, he's been effective with Idlib going from one of Syria's poorest major cities to one that is effectively run, with it boasting things like malls, cafes, functioning public services, and even 24-hour electricity, which is something that even Damascus didn't have. But this also is ruling what essentially amounts to a single province is much different than an entire country, especially one as diverse as Syria, which has a lot of ethnic and religious minorities, which of course brings up the question of, well, what would happen to them under a possibly moderate Islamic regime? And notably there, you had Jilani trying to reassure people, saying that there were some violations against minorities by certain individuals during periods of chaos, but we addressed these issues. And adding, no one has the right to erase another group. These sects have coexisted in this region for hundreds of years, and no one has the right to eliminate them. Also, what's been really interesting with this whole situation is seeing how the media has portrayed Jilani and his group. And specifically, I mean the recent coverage compared to the past coverage. Because if you just look at Google Trends, you can see that there's not a lot about them out there prior to the past few weeks. With previously the biggest pop being back in April when the group was dealing with protests in Italy, with at the time some outlets describing it as a dictator. Right? Protests have erupted against another Syrian dictator, and protests grow against powerful jihadist groups in Syria enclave. And this is, generally speaking, HTS was described as authoritarian, but now it's been described as more of a...
Only do one more.
However, it's not like this is coming out of nowhere, right? Jilani and this group, they have spent months trying to polish their image. They may possibly be sincere about it despite their fundamentalist past. Though, of course, this is, I always say, words are words, actions are actions. We'll have to see how this plays out. Because on the note of words, we have things like in 2013, he told Al Jazeera that he wanted Syria to be an Islamic caliphate that had no room for the country's minority groups. But, as we saw in his CNN interview, he now claims the opposite. And this is you have experts saying the group's been saying the right things recently. Like in response to those protests earlier this year, you had HTS's media body telling outlets, the protests in the streets against HTS and the Salvation government are natural and we do not view them in any other context. We're confident that those who work make mistakes and all protests aim to correct these mistakes that have recently transpired. And that's on top of recent reports that claim soldiers for the HTS were told they couldn't approach women for dressing, quote, inappropriately and tell them to cover up because women are allowed to wear what they want. Though this also is, you have critics saying this could just be a temporary thing, right? Temporary stances as a way to cozy up to other countries and be seen as a legitimate shift. But as far as what the reality is, we won't really know until we see what happens next. We have Jilani claiming that he'll be working with groups to try and set up some kind of stable transition to power. But this also is, even if he starts a stable government in Damascus, it doesn't mean that that's the end of the civil war. Unless, while he's doing all of this, he can convince the Kurds to lay down their arms and join the country again. Something that's been described by many as not likely, as they've been acting autonomously for almost 2 decades now, and independent Kurdistan, that's long been a dream for the ethnic group. So that is a whole other rabbit hole, because as all of this was happening, Turkey attacked Kurdish forces because Turkey doesn't want a Kurdistan to exist. But also, let's say that some kind of agreements were made to end the fighting between various rebel groups. Syria would still be at war, though this time was with Israel, as the two have long had a disputed region called the Golan Heights. And actually, with the Assad regime falling, Israel took the chance to attack in Syria to secure a buffer zone and occupy more land. So this is in no way the last time we're going to be talking about this. We have to keep an eye on all the moving parts, because as great as it would be to see a democratic and relatively free Syria, as Jilani has promised, it's probably safer to say that the country still has a long, long way to go. But then finally, today, let's talk about that last show with a little commentary. And unlike previous shows, I will say there was a
commentary. Okay, a lot happened earlier today. Oh my goodness.
Hi there. Blue's Clues is an educational children's TV show about a man named Steve who lives in a magical world where he spends his day talking to inanimate objects, jumping through picture frames, and trying to find clues to help understand his magical blue dog. Law and Order is a gritty, realistic police procedural / legal drama that involves New York City homicide detectives trying to solve murders and prosecute criminals. These two shows are very different. You could not find two shows more polar opposite than Blue's Clues and Law and Order. And yet, despite this, not only do I believe that these two shows exist in the same universe, but I'm also going to be proving that the entire Blue's Clues show is actually just a fantasy inside of the mind of a single Law and Order side character. Yes, I am being serious. I know that sounds crazy, but just stick with me, because I'm pretty sure that I have discovered a 29-year-old secret that has never been talked about before today. Get ready, because this is the Blue's Clues Law and Order theory.
La 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 la. Oh, can't have that play too long.
By far, the most common type of fan theory is the dream theory. The idea that everything happening in a story is actually all just inside of a character's head, whether they're stuck in a coma, or they're dreaming, or hallucinating, or they're actually dead. Pretty much every piece of media has some kind of dream theory. And it's sort of the lazy, low-hanging fruit of fan theories. You can just apply it to literally anything, and usually there's never actually any evidence besides, whoa, this show is so crazy and unrealistic, that must mean it's a dream! Ah! And surprisingly, the show that seems to have the most of these types of fan theories is Blue's Clues. You got Steve is actually schizophrenic, Steve is actually in a mental asylum, Steve is actually a drug addict, Steve is actually in prison, Steve is actually a murderer who killed his parents. Oh my god. Even I made a parody of these theories back in 2017.
So yeah, it's a pretty basic, normal kid show. Steve, a 30-year-old schizophrenic who killed his parents, pretends to be a kid.
You know, that was before I dedicated my life to making fan theories about kid shows. And look, I understand the appeal of these types of theories. It's fun to take something innocent from your childhood and give it a dark, edgy plot twist. That's kind of literally my job right now. But why are there so many of these theories about specifically Blue's Clues? Well, I think it's because everything about this show has always felt fake. Steve is the only real person in this world. He looks like a young adult, but he acts like a child. And he lives alone in a house where he spends his day jumping into picture frames or talking to unseen voices or inanimate objects. It just kind of sounds like I'm describing someone who is experiencing some kind of false reality. Even the way Steve moves around is strange. He never actually leaves the room. He just kind of pretends to walk in place while this fantasy world moves around him. Come on. Obviously, that was more of a filming limitation, but it still adds to this feeling of fakeness. But other than these surface-level weird vibes the show gives off, there's never actually been any strong evidence to prove one of these theories. And believe me, I and others have looked. It has been 28 years since this show first came out. You know, you'd think if there was actually some kind of smoking gun here, we would have found it by now. But what if that's because we've all been looking in the wrong place? So, the other day, I stumbled upon an interesting piece of Blue's Clues trivia. A year after Steve Burns filmed the Blue's Clues pilot, he had a small role in an episode of Law and Order. And I thought the idea of seeing Steve from Blue's Clues in a gritty, realistic cop show was kind of funny, so I decided to track down the 1995 episode titled Cruel and Unusual. Just a heads up, this episode deals with some pretty serious subject matter, so please proceed with caution. In this episode, Steve Burns plays a kid with autism named Kevin Jeffries.
Good morning, how are you?
Great.
What time is it?
10:15.
No, it's 10:18.
We learn that Kevin has trouble communicating with others and often harms himself. so his parents sent him to live in a children's behavioral clinic.
Just what was the behavioral clinic doing for him?
When Kevin was 10, he started to hurt himself.
We didn't know what to do. We couldn't keep Kevin here. We had to send him away.
We later find out that the doctors at this clinic were horribly mistreating him by giving him intense electroshock therapy and forcing him to wear a sensory deprivation helmet for days.
Kept Kathy in this helmet for 3 straight days. This helmet cut off the blood supply to our daughter's brain.
The episode starts with Kevin after he's escaped from the facility, but tragically he gets arrested and later succumbs to the injuries sustained from his abuse and dies.
I think the kid's dead.
And the rest of the episode
Wow.
follows the detectives investigating his death. So yeah, this is a very sad and serious episode, and it deals with some real systemic issues that are still a problem today. And like I was saying, this show is clearly very, very different than Blue's Clues. But what I find interesting about this is that for years, people have been trying to prove that Steve is actually in prison or a mental facility, and now we have this piece of media where we see Steve's actor in that exact position, and as far as I'm aware, no one's ever really talked about this.
Wow.
I mean, sure,
Well, maybe we
Kevin's
didn't know.
schizophrenic, he has autism, but seeing as how he was being abused and put into sensory deprivation for days where he couldn't hear or see anything, you can kind of imagine that anyone in that position might try to escape to some... So yeah, I thought this was an interesting coincidence, but at the end of the day, that's kind of all it was. Like, obviously, just because the same actor shows up in 2 different shows doesn't mean they're actually connected. But then, I took a closer look at this episode, and I started to notice more and more weird similarities between Kevin and Steve. At first, it just started with some little things. We are told by Kevin's parents that he was learning to draw.
Thanks to him, Kevin was learning to draw.
And in every episode of Blue's Clues, Steve draws in his handy-dandy notebook.
Our handy dandy? Notebook. Let's draw a rectangle, and there. Cheese.
Okay, but so what? Lots of kids like to draw. But we are also told that when Kevin harmed himself, he was strapped to a chair.
We put them in a chair, and we hold them there using soft cuffs.
And in every episode of Blue's Clues, Steve spends a lot of time in his thinking
Chair and think and think.
Now that we're in our thinking chair, let's think.
And
Let's
then when Kevin escaped the
think.
facility, he kept asking people what time it was.
What time is it? 10:15. What time? How you doing today, huh? What time?
Now, it is common for some people with autism to rely on specific schedules or routines, but what time it is also really important in Blue's Clues.
What time is it? What time is it now?
Steve has a cleanup time,
We just had cleanup time.
a nap time.
It's Blue's bedtime.
Now it's time for so long. There's a talking clock. And most of all, every day, Steve has mail time.
Mail time.
Hey, Blue, the mail's here.
So yeah, there's some weird similarities here, but nothing actually concrete. I didn't really start to take any of this seriously until I realized. After Kevin escaped, we are told that he went to a movie theater. And guess what he did in the theater?
The movie started at 10. He was out of here by 10 after 10. Got out of his seat, walked into the screen.
Kevin got out of his seat and tried to walk into the screen. Doesn't that sound exactly like Steve Blueskadooing into a picture?
We can too.
He tried.
This
Dang.
kind of feels like more than a coincidence. So this is when I first started to consider, is it really possible that Kevin Jeffries from Law & Order
Should really ask
real Steve,
Steve.
and Blue's Clues is all fantasy
Steve is still
waiting
alive.
to
Ask
escape
him.
his abusive reality? Okay, I know you're not convinced yet, and to be
Oh
honest,
no, I'm pretty
neither am
convinced.
I,
Let's do it.
but don't worry, we are just getting started. Kevin's behavioral clinic is in New York City, and the one-time characters actually leave the Blue's Clues fantasy world and go to the real world, they end up in New York.
Oh my god.
Clues in New York City?
This is epic! Also, in the very first episode of Blue's Clues, we can see a newspaper from the New York Times inside of Steve's house, strongly implying that's actually where he lives. We can also see objects from Blue's Clues in Kevin's life. In Kevin's parents' house, we see a very large salt and pepper shaker, just like Mr. Salt and
When Mr. Pepper.
Mr. Salt and Miss Pepper?
Hello, Steve.
Hello, Steve.
Hello,
And in the clinic,
Steve.
we can see a red bucket, just like Steve's friend, Pale.
Hello, Pale.
Oh my goodness, Pale.
Also, when Steve left the show to go to college, he left on a blue bus. And when Kevin escaped the clinic, in his pocket, he had a schedule for the Greyhound,
Ooh.
Amtrak schedule, Greyhound schedule.
which is also a blue bus. Alright, those are some more interesting connections, but you're probably still not completely sold yet, right?
Oh no, I'm pretty
Check this out.
convinced.
Steve eventually
I wanna
left the
know.
show to go to college. He was replaced by his younger brother Joe,
Oh, hi. It's me, Steve's brother Joe.
and later Joe got replaced by their cousin Josh.
Hi, it's me, Josh.
And not only does Kevin also have a younger brother, but at the clinic there is a nurse named Joe
What's your name? Joe Garvey. Joe Garvey, you're under arrest for assault.
and an occupational therapist named Josh.
Take a look at the amended complaint.
Wow.
Occupational therapist Josh Bingham was dropped.
I think that Kevin is taking aspects from his real life, like the objects or the names of the people working at the clinic, and applying them to his fantasy. Also, this one is less impressive, but the name Kevin is also the name of the Blue's Clues UK host.
Hello out there. It's me, Kevin.
Also, check this out. Kevin's behavioral clinic has the same initials as Blue's Clues. Huh?
Oh my gosh.
That one's also not that impressive, I know. But wait. If this theory is true, and all of this is just inside of Kevin's head, then why does the main character of his fantasy keep changing?
Hi, come on in. Hi, come on in. Hi, come on in.
Well, at first, I thought maybe Joe and Josh could actually just be from two different kids who took Kevin's spot in the clinic after he died. But the clinic gets shut down at the end of the episode.
You made them close the clinic.
So they would all have to be from Kevin. But why? Well, we're told that Kevin has tried to escape from the clinic before.
We called the police this morning as soon as the clinic told us that Kevin ran away. He's done this before.
So what if every time the host leaves Blue's Clues, it's
Hi.
actually Kevin trying to escape the clinic, and when he's inevitably put back inside,
He's done this before.
his fantasy resets with a new Blue's Clues host.
Hi, come on in. Hi, come on in. Hi, come on in.
Okay, so there is a surprising amount of connections here. You can't deny that. But
Yeah.
it still kind of feels like we're missing something. Like, I can see why Kevin would imagine a fun, colorful world to escape his abuse, but why is Kevin's fantasy so focused on playing a scavenger hunt game with a blue dog? As far as I can tell, there's nothing similar to that in this episode. Well, I think to answer this, we need to take a closer look at what Blue's Clues actually is. At the beginning of the Law & Order episode, Kevin's doctor explained to the detectives why Kevin harmed himself.
It's pretty common with some autistic children. It's frustration because of their inability to communicate.
It's frustrations because of his inability to communicate. Now, autism is a spectrum, and it's a lot more complicated and nuanced than the way TV shows like this tend to portray it. But it is true that some people with autism have varying levels of difficulty communicating. And I think this becomes interesting when we take a look at what Blue's Clues actually is.
Well, what story should we tell? Great idea. We'll play Blue's Clues to figure out what story Blue wants us to tell.
It's a game where you try to understand Blue, a character who has an inability to communicate. This is literally the entire premise of the show. So I think that this is telling us that Blue represents the side of Kevin who struggles to communicate with others. Okay, but where did the idea for a blue dog come from?
Like I said, I couldn't find any references to dogs in this episode. The closest visual was this vaguely blue drawing in Kevin's room that I can't really make out.
Doesn't
or
look
this
like a dog.
teddy bear that kind of had a similar pattern to blue, but nothing really concrete, which is weird because blue is such a major part of this fantasy. But then I realized it doesn't matter if we can't find a direct connection, because in Blue's Clues, Steve didn't actually adopt Blue. In a flashback episode of Blue's Clues, we learned that when Steve was younger, he read a book about a blue dog.
It's a book about a puppy.
Which caused Blue to magically come to life. And I think this is also probably what happened with Kevin. We see that the Children's Behavioral Clinic is full of what we can reasonably assume are children's books. Maybe there's a book in here that also gave Kevin the idea for a blue dog, just like Steve. In fact, this idea of a children's book giving Kevin ideas for his fantasy is exactly what we see at the start of the Blue's Clues intro.
Hi, it's me, Steve.
Every single episode of Blue's Clues starts with a stack of children's books in the real world, before going inside of a book called Blue's Clues, where the episode takes place. The show literally tells us every episode that Steve's world is fake and it comes from a book. And I think this real world of children's books is actually the Law and Order Behavioral Clinic.
Wow.
And if this is true, that also means that there's probably a book literally called Blue's Clues in the clinic that Kevin is basing his fantasy off of. So even if we never see a blue dog or even hear the name Steve in this Law and Order episode, Kevin still could have gotten all of those ideas from an existing Blue's Clues book in the clinic. Now, the only thing that doesn't really fit with this idea is mail time.
Hello, mailbox. Hi, Steve.
Oh shit.
I got a letter for you.
Oh,
Sure, maybe the talking turtle mailbox was just something from the book, but there's no way Steve watching videos of kids in the real world would be something in a children's
Look.
Jess, how come it says you're not even in here? Hi. How are you doing? I'm making cards. Do you want a card? I'm gonna send them out this week. What happened to the all messages? I don't know what happened to that message. It went away. That's so weird. What's this one? No. We'll go with this one. What type of card? I'm gonna make it. Here, hold on. I'm not gonna tell you what I'm gonna send to you, but like, so for example, there's this type, right? And then there's this type, which I think is really cool. They're both really cool. But so right now, I'm doing the desert scape. What time is it? Oh, how's your day? I'm just catching up to like weird fan theories about how Blue's Clues and Law and Order are in the same thingy. They're in the same universe. Ooh, excuse me. I need the other brush. This brush is too big. That's what she said. Oh, so pretty. Okay. Trying to make more videos. What kind of videos? What kind of videos are you making? Like, or like, you know, to promote your stuff? Is it for the podcast? What's it for? And, you know, let me know what I can do to help. I was actually gonna do an end of year live stream, which would be great if I had like a, you know, a consistent following for live streams, but I don't. So I was wondering if I can produce it and then put it on your stream instead. If you said something, it went away. I don't know why they don't stay. I'm not sure why the chats don't stay on my end. It's really weird. Oh, so pretty. Okay. I'm gonna put you right here. Let me see. Tell me more about it. Okay, so my end of year live stream idea. Hold on, give me 1 sec, cause I need to click on the chat. No, it's I'm streaming from my phone, and it's horizontally. So for some reason the thing is something happens. I don't know what's going on. Oh, there it is. Ah, look at you. Thank you. It did pop up now. What type? Sorry, I'm editing also, trying to make more videos right now. A Fortnite clip that I have here, and as well of my podcast. So podcast, Twitch, Fortnite. Tell me about. Nice. I would say. So this end of the year live stream is going to be like a marathon live stream where we go month per month, going through like personal things that happened, but also what's been going on in the world. So I think that's really up your alley, because I know that you're gonna do something tonight, right? For the Jay-Z Diddy thing. So that would be like whenever, you know, whatever month that started to be a thing. Like another example would be like any notable achievements or changes or ups and downs, or if there's and like at the end we talk about like what we look forward to. And this is like a I would have this be more so like to have guests pop in or submit their video, but it's really late now. I don't know about people submitting a video to talk about whatever, like at a specific month. Like for example, April was a big month, and one of the things I want to do is to honor my friend Gold. He died, and I found out in April, so I didn't really like put anything public up for him, because it was just, he's really young. He's younger than both of us. He was, and I wasn't sure how to like honor his memory or like do something in remembrance. So like when we get to the month of April, that's not definitely something that I would want to do, you know, if that makes sense. Let's see. No, that's next year. Every other Fridays. Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds fun. If you're here, say hi, LOL. Wait, what's next year? Like, then of course. Actually, there is, I have my sister's sister-in-law. Her and her family lives in Miami now, so, you know, it's easier to convince people to come with me to Miami. So pretty. I need to make that line though. But let's let that dry. The podcast. Oh, gotcha. Duh. Okay. Okay. I mean, are you streaming today? Or though? I thought you were streaming today. Sorry. I'm like, wait, all over the place. Trying to, you know, do more, better things. Okay. Okay. And then this one, I really need to get on the same. Yo, I'm kind of like annoyed with whoever it is that reported the guy who killed the CEO. It's like, why did you do that? Okay, you recognize them. You know, he well, he could have. Yeah, I feel like he could have committed other crimes, but he didn't. Pretty sure he only wanted to eat the rich. But we shall see. It seems like judgment, you know? Like, that president, his company did not do good things for others. How to crop out the videos on CapCut. I don't know what to press, you know what I mean? Yeah, all you gotta do is highlight the video and then zoom in and out. Or there should be something at the bottom. It's like, it's not transform, it's like adjust. But the first thing is you have to make sure that the video is like somehow highlighted. Hold on, I need to check. There we go. Okay. I'm waiting on Lucas to wake up. He is asleep right now. He took a late nap. Late nap, baby boy. It's like he knew that I wanted to get stuff done. And he was like, nah, mom, I'm gonna stay awake with you. Let me help. It's like, no, baby, just take a nap. Take a nap. And he was not on a nap at all. It was really frustrating. So I was like, baby, just take a nap. It doesn't show me, so I'm trying to trim the video so I can only capture part of the video, not the entire video. Oh, you mean like, split it? Like splitting it? I'm just trying to show, let's say, my health bar. See, CapCut is on my phone and I'm live streaming from my phone right now. Give me 1 sec. Because I know what you're talking about. I know it's possible, but it's like escaping me. And nothing is charging? Uh-oh. That's not good. Something's gonna be charged. OMG, I found. Oh, okay. Okay, good. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, because I wasn't sure if this is what. Hold on. I wasn't sure if what you were talking about is this. So, like, highlight the video, and then you can go like this. See? But it sounds like you got it. Thank you for letting me support you. Oh, there's also transform. That's what it is. Transform. And then resize. And then that does it too. But it does the other sizes. So, yeah. I hope that I give you support somehow. Oh, I was thinking about doing like power hours where we just sit on Discord and edit together. You know, like just getting our creative stuff done. And then like, you know, like this, if you need help, there's somebody that's there. Even if, like, you know, you figure it out, at least you have the support. What do you think? Yeah, I got it. Okay, cool. Yay. Very good. So, you know, for that, I like to also use Minvo. I have a lifetime license using that. But it's not the same because it's like automated. It's like, it's not the same as CapCut. It actually has less features. But the big feature that I like is like, you tell it what you want. Like how many minutes and like what to look for. Like look for the funniest. Oh shit. You're welcome. You're welcome. Ah, there we go. Uh-oh. There we go. Okay. Uh-oh, this one. Okay. I only have a few left, and then actually, I'm gonna hop off in maybe like 5-10 minutes. Like soon, because, I haven't seen Lucas in a little bit. I wanna say he could be awake now. But it's definitely been like enough time where he could be, there's a good chance that he's awake now. Because I hear children. So, once I'm finished with the cards, That sounds good. I have a friend here in Miami who is liking the whole streaming and podcasting. And he wants to start a community of people with the same mindset. So we can make something out of it. Yeah, definitely. Like, maybe I can start with, like, you know, doing... Because I really want to help people get set up with their stuff. Like, I know a ton of tools. It's just which one works for you and the amount of work you put into it. I've seen a lot of people grow much bigger than I am because I heard of, you know, I learned of a strategy and then I told them and it didn't, you know, I didn't follow through with using it, but they did and they saw a lot of success from it, and that's beautiful. And we have help for each other since we all have different equipment. Exactly. Hello. I'm making cards. So, Mikey, I'm gonna make cards for basically everybody, including the people that I never got to send a thank you note to for, you know, Lucas's things. So I'm gonna include those. So, making cards. And then it's gonna have a picture of Lucas inside. How are you? It feels like a safety meeting, huh? Okay. I should just stuck with the gold rather than the white. The white, I don't know if I like it now. So this one is with white glitter, and this one is with gold glitter, and they both have a brown background, like brown, and then I put brown paint underneath with the outline and then glitter. It looks like a fucking child did it. We'll just say Lucas did it. Lucas did all of them. That kid's looks like Lucas, but he's not that dark yet. Or wears glitter. Why? What are you talking about? Two-man ready up. Nobody knows it's provocative. We'll get you going. Oh, I don't know. I gotta text people. Oh, and I gotta film and I gotta record and edit like two videos. 3 videos. Shit. Record 1. Edit 3. Okay. Alright. I finished my cards. I touched one of them. Fuck. Which one did I touch? Oh my god, this always happens. I'm just gonna leave them. Don't let them do anything. Oh my goodness. No. Okay. And then Oh shoot. Oh shoot, you guys. Oh shoot. Oh shoot. Okay. I can't have all this water next to equipment. Alright, you guys. I gotta go. Hold on, I'm showing my face. Okay, you guys. I'm gonna head out. I gotta dye my hair. I'm starting to look old again. I'm done with painting that. I might be back later. Gotta check on the baby. See if he's awake. So, I'll see you guys later. Have a good morning. Have a good afternoon. Have a good... I'll see y'all later. I'll probably be back.